Chapter 891, The Seventh Step. Shoo! The scarlet long sword shuttled through the void with terrible strength, and stabbed at the blood demon again and again. As Jian Wushuang became more skilled in controlling the sword formation, he could use it to hack, chop, and even swipe, not just simply stabbing. The long sword was fast and flexible, making it difficult for the blood demon to resist. So quick. Too quick. Not only fast, but also so flexible. The audience cannot stop marveling at the scenes. Blood Mountain's sword formation is indeed formidable. He was not that agile the last time we practiced. As he became more skilled with the sword formation, his sword control grew more and more flexible. The power of this sword formation has been upgraded to a whole new level. Zidong gasped in admiration. His sword formation is impressive. But this alone is not enough to pass the third level. The woman beside him said. As expected, the blood demon finally erupted completely. The blood demon suddenly waved his saber and rushed forward. Majestic power burst out from the saber and beat off the scarlet long sword over and over again. He quickly approached Jian Wushuang, and was right in front of him in no time. Swoosh! The blood demon hacked with the saber. So swift and violent, like a thunderbolt in the clear sky. At such a sight, all the audience sighed pitifully, thinking that Jian Wushuang was about to lose. After all, the sword formation was his most powerful weapon. With the protection from it, he could fight with the blood demon face to face, but once the blood demon approached him. 200 years ago, when Jian Wushuang was fighting Zidong, he lost tragically because his sword formation was invisible and didn't work for Zidong at all. He was then easily approached and defeated. Now he was approached by the blood demon. Once close, Jian Wushuang could not use the ninth heaven sword formation. His offensive power would be greatly reduced. However, these people did not know he was not what he used to be 200 years ago. Now his sword heart had reached the top of level 6, and his divine yin thunder had entered the second level. His body was extraordinarily strong enough to resist the blood demon even without the ninth heaven sword formation. When the blood demon appeared in front of him and held up the saber, Jian Wushuang immediately waved his Blood Mountain sword. Once the Blood Mountain sword's ultimate power was triggered, Jian Wushuang instantly performed the fourth move of the Boundless Heaven sword art. Bang! With a loud noise, a terrible roar shook the entire Black Tower. After that, Jian Wushuang staggered and dropped back several steps, but his aura remained strong and intact. He survived. How could he survive? Did he survive the blood demon's attack without the sword formation? The audiences were all stunned. In terms of attack, he had such a violent, yet nimble sword formation. In defense, he could resist the blood demon from nearby. Then, this battle. Just as when everyone was still shocked by what they saw, Jian Wushuang suddenly snorted, and his body split into half in mid-air. Yes, it is split into two. Doppelganger. It is the doppelganger. Everyone was shouting under the Black Tower. Jian Wushuang, who was still in the third level, revealed his two original bodies at this moment, his eyes cold and solemn. The world body stepped back toward the edge, and the slaughter body, with the Blood Mountain sword and a monstrous aura, directly rushed out toward the blood demon. The world body controlled the ninth heaven sword formation and attacked the blood demon in a frenzy again and again. The slaughter body performed the swordsmanship and fought with the blood demon face to face. On the battlefield, streams of violent sword light roared out one after another, accompanied by the harsh noise from the 6-meter-long scarlet longsword, which was shuttling back and forth in the air. The two are perfectly matched. Facing such an attack of two different offensives, the blood demon appeared a little confounded and kept moving backward. At this sight, the audience all stood in amazement. Is the blood demon suppressed by him? This is the blood demon in the third level, the last anchor of the Black Tower. Yet he is suppressed. Too strong. The Blood Mountain is too strong. His original body controls the sword formation, while the doppelganger fights. Both are terrible. The blood demon cannot withstand the attack from the two. Is the blood demon going to lose? Countless screaming rang in succession. Among the crowd, Zidong also stared at the image with wide eyes, appearing astonished. This blood mountain. His strength is beyond the eternal realm. I'm sure he is able to fight with a real Tao master right now. Zedong said in his deep voice. He did not disguise his words, so the people around him heard and were all shocked. To fight with a Tao master? In the eternal world, it is a wild wish for people in the eternal realm to confront with a Tao master fair and square. Is this the legendary seventh step? The woman beside Zedong murmured. The seventh step? The crowd was silenced at the sound of these three words. Within the eternal world, there were only 6 steps in the eternal realm. The 6 steps of the eternal realm was divided according to the 6 levels of the sword heart. The top of level 6 represented the highest level in the eternal realm. However, there was a rumor in the eternal world, saying that a 7th step existed. It was said that a long time ago, before the Tang of the Eastern Land was created, there was an extraordinary eternal realm in the eternal world. This eternal realm was able to fight with Tao Master. The entire eternal world was shocked by his strength. Just because his power was too strong to go beyond the eternal realm, someone defined him as the 7th step of the eternal realm. Only that one person had achieved the supreme 7th step during the entire history of the eternal world. In addition, 4 million years ago, the Star King, who had passed the level 3 test of Star Island and left Stellar Fog Sea, also reached the 7th step. But this Star King kept a low profile and had little fame in the eternal world. Now, the strength Jian Wushuang had revealed exceeded the 6th step and reached the 7th. This step was enough to confront ordinary Tao masters. Moreover, no one knew that Jian Wushuang was only a divine realm expert, except the Lord Spirit Sound and Ling Long. Of course, although he was a divine realm expert, he was still an inverse cultivator. He couldn't be judged based on ordinary realms. Lord Spirit Sound once said that top experts on this land had a better understanding about inverse cultivators. They regarded inverse cultivators as cultivators of a higher level. Therefore, inverse cultivators on the divine realm expert level were actually no different from normal eternal realm cultivators. Chapter 892, Lineage of Stars. Is he about to succeed? The Lord Spirit Sound had been watching the images from the mirror image all the time. Right now, her face broke into a smile. It's right. He is an inverse cultivator on the divine realm expert level, and should be regarded as an eternal realm. Besides, he has good opportunities, a supreme bloodline from the ancient god, a set of remarkable sword formation and the secret skill of divine yin thunder from the Star Island. It is natural that he could pass. The Lord Spirit Sound was not very surprised by Jian Wushuang's performance in the 3rd level. But the others were totally dumbfounded. Inside the 3rd level, Jian Wushuang's 2 original bodies cooperated with each other. The world body controlled the sword formation, while the slaughter body fought in close combat. The 2 were a perfect combination. Shoo! The horrific sword formation broke through the air like a bloody electric drill. Before the blood demon could ward off the formation, the sword light from the slaughter body shot toward him from the other side. The blood demon had exhausted himself, but was still completely suppressed. Being suppressed by his opponent, the blood demon grew weaker and weaker. Finally, the long sword stabbed fiercely at the blood demon, whose body exploded right away. The blood demon collapsed. He passed. The blood demon is defeated. He really passed the 3rd level. In front of the Black Tower, the crowd was shocked at the sight. Even the 5 Tao masters hiding in the dark were astonished by what they saw. After passing the 3rd level, Jian Wushuang could leave the damnable place of Stellar Fog Sea. It was the expectations of everyone on this island. In history, only the Star King left Stellar Fog Sea 4 million years ago. Today, Jian Wushuang was the 2nd person to do so. He passed. Seeing that the blood demon totally collapsed, Jian Wushuang was finally relieved. He waved his hand, and the 9th heaven sword formation immediately broke up into many blood sky swords, which were then stored in the interspatial ring. His 2 original bodies reunited. Blood Mountain. Out of nowhere, the Lord Spirit Sound showed up in front of Jian Wushuang. Lord Spirit Sound. Jian Wushuang looked over. It took you only 210 years to pass level 3 of this Black Tower. Very impressive. She sighed softly and then made a gesture. Follow me. Jian Wushuang felt an invisible force rushing toward him, and his body was no longer under control. At the same time, in front of him, a space wormhole suddenly appeared and directly drew him in. The moment he crossed into the wormhole, the space on the third level quieted down. The mirror image in front of the Black Tower disappeared. The crowd was still there. Everyone was praising and discussing, waiting for Jian Wushuang to walk out from the Black Tower. On a lake covered by endless gray fog, huge lotus leaves floated on the surface of the water. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang emerged out of thin air on top of one of the lotus leaves. This is... He looked around. This is Star Lake, the place where I live. Lord Spirit Sound was standing before him. She continued, what I have left on the Star Island is only an incarnation. What you see now is my original body. I see. Jian Wushuang nodded slowly. Blood Mountain, you are clear of the rules on Star Island. You should know that after passing the third level of the Black Tower, you are qualified to leave the Stellar Fog Sea. Lord Spirit Sound went on, but there was something else. Something else. Jian Wushuang was confused. You can leave Stellar Fog Sea if you pass the third level. This is true. Apart from it, you're also qualified to be a disciple of the Star Bloodline, said Lord Spirit Sound. A disciple of the Star Bloodline. Jian Wushuang was surprised. Star Bloodline? What was the Star Bloodline? He had never heard of it in the eternal world. But he could guess that the Star Bloodline must have something to do with the great expert who had created the vast Stellar Fog Sea. Blood Mountain, listen carefully. The Stellar Fog Sea was created with great means by the founder of the Star Bloodline. The purpose of its existence is to select qualified disciples for the Star Bloodline. Lord Spirit Sound narrated. There are 4 Black Towers on Star Island, representing 4 different levels of tests. Among these 4 levels, the levels of the Divine Realm, Eternal Realm, and Tao Master are designed to help select ordinary disciples. You just passed the Eternal Realm test, and could be accepted as an ordinary disciple of the Star Bloodline. This is your disciple token. Lord Spirit Sound handed a token to Jian Wushuang. He automatically took it over and put it on his hand. A closer look at the token with his consciousness, he discovered a vast sea of stars, boundless and bottomless, sending out a unique and frightening aura. That aura was strong enough to make Jian Wushuang's heart tremble. He swallowed hard, and quickly calmed down. Then he asked, Lord Spirit Sound, you've talked so much about the Star Bloodline. But where is it exactly? Why haven't I heard about it in the eternal world? In his eyes, the founder of the Star Bloodline, who had created the Stellar Fog Sea, must be a remarkable expert. Such a mighty person shouldn't be unknown to others. His Star Bloodline shouldn't be unheard of. The Star Bloodline is not in your realm. It's natural that you haven't heard about it, said Lord Spirit Sound. Not in this realm? Then where? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Lord Spirit Sound glanced at him and smiled. The eternal world is huge. It's not as simple as you think. Your knowledge about it is like a drop of water in the sea. When you become a Tao Master and have a wider knowledge, you'll naturally know. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang frowned. What he knew about the eternal world was only a fraction of it. How big was the eternal world exactly? You don't have to know too much about the Star Bloodline. After all, you are so weak right now. You should improve your strength first. Lord Spirit Sound smiled. By the way, now that you've passed the test and become a disciple of the Star Bloodline, I'll choose 3 opportunities for you and then send you away. This is the rule set by the founder. 3 opportunities. Jian Wushuang's heart lightened. Chapter 893, The 1-Meter Sword. Jian Wushuang remembered that when he first came to Star Island, Lord Spirit Sound said if he passed the 3 tests of the Black Tower, he could leave Stellar Fog Sea. Besides, she would also give him some additional opportunities. Now, this must be it. 3 opportunities. He was quite expectant. The Star Bloodline must be very extraordinary, for the Stellar Fog Sea was already quite unusual. The opportunities mentioned by Lord Spirit Sound must also be a heritage from the founder of this lineage. Opportunities left by that kind of experts naturally made Jian Wushuang very excited. The founder has left many treasures and opportunities in the stellar fog sea. I will choose 3 useful opportunities for you. Lord Spirit Sound looked at him and said, "Your sword formation looked marvelous. Its creator must have a very profound understanding about sword principle and formation."
Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded.
The Ninth Heaven sword formation was co-created by Sunrise Sword Emperor and Tao Master Spirit. In the eternal world, Sunrise Sword Emperor and Tao Master Spirit were acknowledged as the greatest sword cultivator and formation master respectively. Both represented the top level in their respective fields. The formation is wonderful indeed, and you're also skilled at controlling it. But it's a pity that the magic weapons forming up the formation are of low grade, said Lord Spirit Sound. Jian Wushuang was astounded by her words. The magic weapons that form up the sword formation? The Blood Sky Sword. The 36 Blood Sky Swords were peak-level eternal weapons from the Blood Eagle Guard's treasure vault. He spent huge amount of credits for these expensive weapons, which were systematically made and identical to each other. However, such weapons were low-grade in the eyes of Lord Spirit Sound. Your sword formation will be more powerful with systematically made magic weapons. I happen to have one set which is very suitable for you. What do you think? She stretched out her hand and a magic sword weapon glowing with lavender light emerged on her palm. Jian Wushuang immediately looked at the weapon on her hand. It was 1 meter long, with a thin hilt and a sharp edge. What a fine sword! Seeing the cold radiance reflected from the edge, he knew how sharp it was without using it. Of all the magic sword weapons he had seen, only his Blood Mountain sword was sharper than this one. The Blood Sky sword was nowhere near it. Most importantly, the aura from this sword was far beyond the reach of eternal weapons. Is it an Emperor weapon? A sudden thought flashed in his mind. But he soon shook his head. No. It feels totally different from an Emperor weapon, although it has similar aura. This sword is 1 meter long, hence the name 1 meter sword. Lord Spirit Sound continued, although it is not an Emperor weapon, this sword is more powerful than ordinary Emperor weapons. It's a very common systematically made sword weapon in the eternal world. Many powerful sword formations in the eternal world were performed with it. On the market, a single 1 meter sword is worth 1 billion divine gems. Speaking of this, she paused and looked toward Jian Wushuang. 1 billion divine gems. He was totally stunned. An ordinary Emperor weapon was only worth 4 or 500 million divine gems at the auction. However, this 1 meter sword would be sold at a much higher price of 1 billion, which was a clear evidence of its power. I saw your sword formation was made up of 36 systematically made magic weapons. So my first opportunity for you is a set of 36 1 meter swords. What do you think? Lord Spirit Sound said with a smile. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang's heart pounded violently. If a 1 meter sword was truly worth 1 billion divine gems, 36 of them would be worth 36 billion divine gems. That was an astronomical number. 36 billion. Jian Wushuang was amazed, but he suddenly frowned. Is there anything wrong? Lord Spirit Sound glanced at him. Lord Spirit Sound, here's my problem. The sword formation that I'm practicing now contains 3 levels. The number of weapons required in each level is different: 36 weapons for the first level, 72 for the second level, and 108 for the third level. I already had a perfect mastery of the first level formation. When I leave Stellar Fog Sea and reach the Eternal Realm, I'll have enough spiritual power to practice the second level. By that time, I'll need 72 swords. You also know that the sword formation's greatest power could only be unleashed with identical systematically made magic weapons. The 36 1 meter swords from you would be useless when I reach the second level. Jian Wushuang said. He spoke the truth. He had been studying the second level of Ninth Heaven sword formation with some progress. But the second sword formation required too much spiritual power. He could only wait until he reached the Eternal Realm. Since it was not long before he could practice the second level, the 36 swords for the first level would be of little use to him. I see. The Lord Spirit Sound nodded and then smiled. I do have more 1-meter swords at hand. But since 36 of them are worth 36 billion divine gems, 72 of them.
Jian Wushuang turned nervous.
He did longed for a set of suitable and powerful systematically made magic weapons, which would greatly improve the strength of his sword formation. But the 1-meter sword was so expensive. He couldn't do anything if the Lord Spirit Sound didn't want to give them to him.
Relax.
The 1-meter swords are expensive indeed. But compared with the many treasures our founder left on the Star Island, they're nothing valuable. Since they will be useful to you, you should have them. You just said that you need 108 of them for the 3rd level sword formation, didn't you? Then I will give them all to you. After saying this, Lord Spirit Sound waved her hand. Suddenly, 108 swords, shining with lavender light, flew out one after another and floated in front of Jian Wushuang. Chapter 894, The Body Fruit. Seeing the many 1-meter swords floating in front of him, Jian Wushuang was overjoyed. He put them into the interspatial ring without any hesitation. Each handle is worth 1 billion and is more powerful than an ordinary emperor weapon. 108 1-meter swords. He clasped his hands. With these swords, I don't have to worry about weapons when practicing the 2nd and 3rd level of the 9th heaven sword formation. Next is your second opportunity. Lord Spirit Sound spoke again. Jian Wushuang immediately looked toward her. The first opportunity was already invaluable. What could the second opportunity be? Blood Mountain, you're a divine realm expert now. After leaving Stellar Fog Sea, you'll soon reach Eternal Realm, which is not difficult for you at all. But after that, it won't be easy to become a Dao Master.
Jian Wushuang nodded.
He didn't worry about breaking through the Eternal Realm. After all, he met the requirements for Eternal Realm a long time ago. In his 200 years on the Star Island, based on his understanding of the World Dao and Slaughter Dao, he already had a profound comprehension of the 9 occults. If he wanted, he could directly break through with just a little preparation. Limited by the tests on the Star Island, he had been restraining his realm and delayed the breakthrough again and again. But he would definitely do it after leaving Stellar Fog Sea. However, becoming a Dao Master was not as easy as breaking through the Eternal Realm. I have some body fruits. You can take them. The Lord Spirit Sound waved her hand and showed him some white body fruits. Body fruits. Jian Wushuang stared at the body fruits in her hand, and detected an extremely strange aura from them. The body fruits are extraordinary treasures. Here are 5 of them. Take one for every 1,000 years and I guarantee you'll become a Dao Master within 10,000 years. The Lord Spirit Sound looked at him, wearing a cold smile. To become a Dao Master within 10,000 years. Jian Wushuang was surprised. Of course. The body fruit has many usages. It may seem a bit wasteful if you swallow it indirectly. If you can, find someone to refine them into body dans. 1 body dan is enough to help an Eternal Realm become a Dao Master within a short time, said Lord Spirit Sound. Is the body dan so effective?
Jian Wushuang marveled.
To become a Dao Master was so hard in the Eternal World. They were so rare. Even in the Tang of the East, Dao Master level experts were not very common. The birth of each Dao Master, the top expert in the Eternal World, required years of accumulation. The most important thing was to find one's own Dao way. For many years, Jian Wushuang had been meditating under the Star Jade Wall, and had some idea about finding his own Dao way. But it would take a long time before truly opening up. He had some confidence in his talent and he knew his chances of breaking into the Dao Master in the future were great. But he was not sure how long it would take. Could the body dan really help an expert to reach Dao Master within a short period of time? If news about the elixir spread out, the countless Eternal Realms in the Eternal World would go crazy about it. After all, a lot of top-level Eternal Realm experts dreamt of becoming Dao Masters. These 5 body fruits are the second opportunity for you. They can guarantee you the position of a Dao Master in the future. As to refining them into body dans, it totally depends on you. Lord Spirit Sound let out a faint smile and threw the 5 body fruits to Jian Wushuang. He took them and carefully put them into the interspatial ring. Putting away the body fruits, Jian Wushuang felt relieved. But then he suddenly asked, Lord Spirit Sound, is there a difference between Tao masters practiced with the help of body fruit and those without?
Difference? Just a little. Lord Spirit Sound nodded.
The function of the body fruit or body dan is to help you create your own Tao Wei in the shortest possible time so as to meet the minimum requirement for Tao masters. The created Tao Weis vary in strength. A more powerful Tao Wei indicates a stronger Tao master, and vice versa. The Tao Weis created with the help of the body fruit or body dan are usually those weakest ones.
Is that so?
Jian Wushuang frowned and asked, only the weakest Tao Wei? He was greatly disappointed. He was ambitious and wanted to be a Tao master, but was unwilling to become just the most ordinary one. He would never choose the weakest Tao Wei unless he had to. Lord Spirit Sound said, I give you these treasures just in case. If you have some trouble on the way, you can still become a Tao master with the help of these body fruits. But if everything goes well, you don't have to rely on them.
I understand.
Jian Wushuang nodded slightly, already having his own idea that if he could become a Tao master on his own, he wouldn't use the body fruits. But if there was little hope of becoming a Tao master on his own strength, he would have to turn to these body fruits for help.
Great. I had already given you 2 opportunities.
It's time for the third one, which is also the most special one. Lord Spirit Sound's face turned grave. The third opportunity is invaluable, much more valuable than the previous 2 combined. Most importantly, it suits you the most. It will be of great help to you and even change your fate.
Change my fate?
Jian Wushuang was puzzled, and grew more expectant. But I need to mention that I only give you a chance to win this fate-changing opportunity. It depends on your own ability to get it. Lord Spirit Sound said, only a chance? Jian Wushuang complained in his heart, but nodded heavily. A great opportunity that could change one's fate was not easy to obtain. But as long as it can be obtained, it would be of great benefit to him too. Jian Wushuang certainly would not give up such a good chance.
Follow me.
Lord Spirit Sound uttered these words and then waved again. Another space wormhole appeared before her. Without a thought, she stepped into the space wormhole directly with Jian Wushuang. Chapter 895, Island. On a giant island, completely covered by a thick fog, located at the farthest end of the stellar fog sea, Jian Wushuang came to this island with Lord Spirit Sound. After landing on the ground, Jian Wushuang took a look at his surroundings. However, other than the thick fog, the only things within view was scattered gravel. He was surprised to find out that all the stones and even the ground were a weird scarlet color. The ground. Jian Wushuang stamped on the scarlet ground, finding that it was very hard and smooth. He deliberately stamped harder, but the ground remained unaffected by his strength. Follow me. Lord Spirit Sound led Jian Wushuang deeper into the island. Jian Wushuang followed closely while inspecting his surroundings. He could tell that there was something unusual about this island. First of all, it was too quiet. There was no sound at all on such a huge island. After a short time, Jian Wushuang arrived in front of the only mountain on this island. This giant mountain was the same scarlet color, but it had a strange shape. Here it is, Lord Spirit Sound said. He stopped and looked up towards the weird mountain. Jian Wushuang looked at the mountain too. It appeared lifeless and had no sound. Jiyu King, I've brought the little guy I told you about last time, Lord Spirit Sound said. His voice echoed across the island. The huge island remained quiet for a long time. Then, a deep old voice rang out, as loud as thunder. Is that him? The sound revealed no emotions at all and came from all directions. Jian Wushuang looked around immediately, but he couldn't tell where exactly the sound came from. Is it from the ground? Jian Wushuang looked at the scarlet ground. A divine realm expert. The deep old voice echoed across the island again. Humph! How could a divine realm expert deserve what Master left? The deep old voice became angry. Immediately, Jian Wushuang felt an incredible oppression coming from everywhere. It felt like it could crush his bones, and his face turned red. Seeing this, Lord Spirit Sound flicked his sleeve and the oppression surrounding Jian Wushuang immediately disappeared. Lord Spirit Sound said, "Gu King, although this little guy is only a divine realm expert, he's an inverse cultivator. He just arrived at Star Island about 200 years ago and has already passed the 3 eternal realm tests. It's rare to have such ability. In addition, the stuff your master left has little to do with a person's realm, right?" "You are right, but a divine realm expert is still too weak. It's impossible for him to get what master left. Come again once he reaches Tao Master." "How do you know he's unable to get it without even letting him try?" Lord Spirit Sound sneered. After a short silence, the deep old voice spoke again. "Little guy, what's your name?" "Blood Mountain, sir," Jian Wushuang answered. "My master did leave a valuable treasure here, but it's not easy to acquire. I don't believe there's any chance for a divine realm expert to succeed. If you still insist on trying, although it won't kill you, it may cause serious injuries that will need a very long time to recover from." The deep old voice stopped for a while, then continued, "Now, let me ask you again. Do you want to try?" "Of course." Jian Wushuang nodded without a second thought. It was such a big opportunity. Who knew if there would be another chance if he missed this one? Not to mention serious injuries, even if he might die, he would still want to give it a try. "Okay, as you wish." The entire island became silent again after these words. "Are we starting now?" Lord Spirit Sound looked at the Scarlet Mountain, smiled, then said, "Blood Mountain, pay close attention to what happens next." Jian Wushuang was stunned but nodded subconsciously. Boom boom POW. At this moment, the entire island started to shake madly. "What's going on?" Jian Wushuang frowned, then looked at Lord Spirit Sound and realized that she was already floating. She obviously knew the island would begin shaking. Jian Wushuang began to float as well while looking around in confusion. Suddenly, with a loud buzzing, the peak of the giant Scarlet Mountain began to split, revealing 2 weird suns that were both a dark gold color. This is... With both eyes opened widely, Jian Wushuang stared at the 2 suns, while feeling as if his head was about to explode. Suns? What suns? They were obviously 2 giant dark gold eyes. Yes, they were 2 eyes, and their size was comparable to 2 small mountains. Each eye was several times bigger than the gold-armored ancient god that Jian Wushuang had turned into. While still at the peak of the mountain, the eyes suddenly opened and focused directly on Jian Wushuang. Meanwhile, Jian Wushuang realized that the scarlet ground he was previously standing on was wriggling madly. It was wriggling. The entire island was wriggling. Next, many huge scarlet tentacles emerged from the wriggling ground. Jian Wushuang and Lord Spirit Sound were in the sky above the island, watching as this all took place. He could clearly see that the entire giant island beneath him had become alive. Numerous tentacles were reaching out from every part of the island as the ground slowly split open, revealing its true form. Jian Wushuang was stunned upon seeing the island's true form. Island? This was not an island. It was a giant worm that had been curled up. Yes, the Scarlet Island he saw before was just the outer shell of this giant worm. Chapter 896. I am Gu King. How could it be? When he saw this, even Jian Wushuang felt a hint of fear. It was enormous and boundless, with scarlet scales, surrounded by numerous savage tendrils, covering its body. A simple glance revealed countless hundreds of tendrils, thickly dotted across its body. There was a huge maroon head at the top of that scarlet body, which was also fully covered with tendrils. Also, there was no nose on its face, just a pair of humongous eyes and a wide-opened bloody mouth. There were also 2 tendrils beside its mouth. It was fiendish, scary, and horrifying. It gave off a frightening atmosphere which seemed to cast a shadow over everything in its surroundings. However, the most blood-curdling was its size. It was just way too humongous. Jian Wushuang had seen some huge exotic beasts before, but compared to this enormous scarlet worm beast, even the biggest one was a joke. They wouldn't even be qualified to be called small. It was just like comparing ants to an elephant. The humongous island they had been standing on before was actually its coiled-up body. Is this really the island we were just standing on? Jian Wushuang's heart was trembling. Before this, he had walked a good distance on the island and noticed that the island seemed unusual. But to his great surprise, this island was actually a living creature and a huge horrifying worm beast at that. Jian Wushuang was secretly amazed. However, his expression changed suddenly. This is. His eyes were filled with astonishment. He stared at the huge worm beast in front of him carefully. This beast, he sensed something familiar about it, like he had met it before. Jian Wushuang tried to recall where he had sensed this before. In no time, he realized the worm beast's identity. The ancient god clan. Jian Wushuang suddenly opened his eyes. Now, he remembered. When he landed in the ancient god clan, he was badly wounded. At that time, ancient god of the ancient god clan, along with Elder Ying, used a savage scarlet worm beast to cure him. Jian Wushuang even assimilated the essence blood of the worm beast. The worm beast's essence blood seemed extremely precious. However, the worm beast that was used to cure him, when compared to this one, putting aside size and number of tendrils, was exactly the same in every other aspect. I am Gu King. An ancient and heavy sound was heard as enormous scarlet worm beast looked at Jian Wushuang with its humongous and round eyes. I am a plenilune centipede from the ancient god clan. My lord is the 8-star imperial god of the ancient god clan, King Luo Zhan. The ancient and heavy sound reverberated throughout the area surrounding Jian Wushuang, which greatly shocked him. The 8-star imperial god. Jian Wushuang's eyes widened. The hierarchy of the ancient god clan was decided by the number of angles in the star on their chests. So, the 1-star ancient god was the weakest, similar to a human divine realm expert, while the 2-star ancient god was equivalent to the eternal realm. And the 3-star ancient god in the ancient god clan, as he knew, was at the same level as the Tao Master in human. 3 stars was enough to rival human Tao Master. Yet this one, the Master of Gu King, was an 8-star ancient god? 8 stars? What level would he reach according to the standards of human cultivators? Moreover, he is an ancient god of imperial bloodline. How powerful would he be? Blood Mountain, I sense the bloodline of the ancient god clan inside your body, and the purity of it is extremely high. You also possess the imperial bloodline. Besides that, you are quite gifted since you managed to pass the 3 tests of Star Island and become the disciple of the lineage of stars. So, I will give you a chance to acquire my master's most valuable treasure. After say that, Gu King lowered its mutane-sized head and opened its bloody mouth. At that moment, Jian Wushuang looked deep inside its bloody mouth, where he saw a dark golden light. What's that? Jian Wushuang glanced at that dark golden light. But there was not enough time for him to understand what it was. Gu King's bloody mouth drew near and seemed as if it was trying to devour Jian Wushuang. Before Jian Wushuang could react, Gu King swallowed him in one gulp. Lord Spirit Sound watched all this happen, from the beginning to the end, without interfering. Quite the opposite, he was standing there with a curious smile on his face. After being swallowed by Gu King, Jian Wushuang was confused for a second. He didn't understand what had happened at first, and by the time it dawned on him, he was already inside a grandiose scarlet palace. This scarlet palace was also tremendous, with enough space to accommodate thousands of people. However, Jian Wushuang knew that this palace existed inside Gu King's stomach. At this point, Jian Wushuang finally understood what the dark golden light which attracted him was. There was a drop of dark golden essence blood suspended above the scarlet palace. Yes, a drop of essence blood. This drop was exceptionally pure and contained incredible power. It only took Jian Wushuang one look to be completely enthralled by it. At the same time, the ancient god bloodline inside him began to seethe subconsciously. It began to seethe dramatically and even started to boil. His light in his eyes even began to burn with a subconscious desire. It was the first time Jian Wushuang had such peculiar feelings since he assimilated the ancient god bloodline. Although this feeling was weird, he was still able to remain calm in the deepest place of his heart. Is this drop of essence blood the most valuable treasure which that 8-star imperial god left? Jian Wushuang whispered. Blood Mountain. The voice of the Gu king arose directly in the palace. What you are looking at is the inheritance essence blood which was condensed by my master before his death. This drop of blood contains my master's bloodline and power. If someone from the ancient god clan manages to refine this drop of essence blood and slowly absorb its energy over time, they could eventually come to possess the imperial bloodline of the ancient god. As for the power, although they would not be able to completely inherit my master's strength, which was at the 8-star ancient god level, he could still, at the very least, reach the level of 5 or even 6 stars. And this increase in power will not have any side effects. After the master's essence blood is completely absorbed, they can still rely on their own ability and continue to improve their strength. Of course, the prerequisite for achieving this is that they must be able to refine this drop of essence blood. Chapter 897. Consciousness. Essence blood. Of inheritance. Staring at the drop of dark golden essence blood floating above the palace, his eyes shone brightly. He had the bloodline of the ancient god clan. For him, this drop of essence blood of inheritance from the 8-star imperial god was akin to a great fortune. Witch King, I'm curious as to how can I refine this drop of essence blood? Jian Wushuang asked. All you need to do is to go up there and start to refine. But in the process you'll be met by an obstacle hindrance. As to what that obstacle may be, you'll find out when the time comes. Witch King's voice rang in the Scarlet Palace. Remember, you only have one chance to refine it. If you fail, don't try again but just leave. Got it? Jian Wushuang nodded. Then he flew directly towards the drop of dark gold essence blood. Soon Jian Wushuang approached that drop of dark gold essence blood. Jian Wushuang fixed his eyes on the drop of essence blood fervently, burning with excitement. Then, he reached out a large hand and tried to grab the drop of essence blood. But the moment he touched it, he triggered an invisible attack. Jian Wushuang shuddered. This is a consciousness attack. Jian Wushuang looked surprised. He himself was good at launching consciousness attacks. Therefore, he was quite familiar with such attacks. Is this the obstacle I must overcome during the refining? Jian Wushuang nodded and immediately focused on refining the drop of essence blood. As he was refining it, the consciousness attack that came from the drop of essence blood was becoming more aggressive. After around half an hour, Jian Wushuang's eyes suddenly sparkled. He opened his mouth, and the drop of dark gold essence blood instantly shrank and fluttered inside his body. I made it! Jian Wushuang was thrilled. How is this possible? An old but vigorous voice rang out throughout the whole Scarlet. Witch King's voice obviously revealed a note of incredulity. The consciousness attack in Master's essence blood is incredibly powerful. How could this kid fight off this consciousness attack without any effort? This is impossible. The Witch King found it quite astonishing that Jian Wushuang refined the essence blood left by his master so easily. It was indeed easy for Jian Wushuang. During the process of refining, Jian Wushuang did not meet much resistance at all. And he succeeded in just half an hour. As confusing as this may have been, the fact remained that Jian Wushuang had refined the drop of essence blood smoothly. Humph! As a snort sounded, the whole Scarlet Palace began to tremble. Then, the Witch King disgorged the huge Scarlet Palace from his stomach. Jian Wushuang, who was staying inside the Scarlet Palace, was spat out. Still in the stellar fog sea. Looking indifferent, Lord Spirit Sound was standing in the void. Meanwhile, the unbelievably colossal body of the Witch King was floating ahead of him, and Jian Wushuang was walking out of the Scarlet Palace. Just when he stepped out, the Witch King's gold-colored eyes as bright as the sun suddenly swiveled in his direction. Blood Mountain, tell me, have you learned any secret skill that can enhance your own consciousness? The Witch King asked in a low voice. Secret skills that can enhance one's own consciousness. Jian Wushuang was stunned and shook his head softly. He had previously practiced some secret skills about consciousness attacks. But as for those that could strengthen one's own consciousness, he had not even have heard any, let alone practice it. No way! This is utterly impossible. The Witch King let out thunderous bellows. Master's essence blood contains a form of consciousness attack. Its impact varies with each individual. The higher one's phase is, the stronger the attack will be. But anyway, you're an inverse cultivator at the level of the Divine Realm Expert, which equals to a normal Eternal Realm Expert. Thus, the impact of this consciousness attack on you must also be quite hard to bear. Even a real Tao Master might not be able to fend it off. But you not only fended it off but managed to do so with little effort. It was as though the consciousness attack didn't influence you at all. Since you did that, your consciousness shall be unusually strong, or even more powerful than most of the Tao Masters. You're merely a Divine Realm Expert. If you never practiced that kind of secret skills, how has your consciousness become so strong? You must have learned some secret skills before. Think harder. The Witch King's voice was very tense. The Witch King had seen the world when he followed his master, an 8-star imperial god, on expeditions in a variety of places. Based on his experience, he was sure that Jian Wushuang must have practiced some form of unique secret skill that reinforced his own consciousness. Otherwise, Jian Wushuang would not have been able to refine the essence blood left by his master so easily. When Jian Wushuang heard the words of the Witch King, he could not resist scowling. Some secret skill that can enhance one's own consciousness? It was true that he never practiced any. But the Witch King was so certain about this. Could it be? A possible explanation dawned on Jian Wushuang. The Universal Tao Scripture. Jian Wushuang yelled, abruptly clapping his hands. When Jian Wushuang joined his master Xianxia and became his personal disciple, Palace Master Xianxia personally handed him the Universal Tao Scripture. At that time, Xianxia did not describe what specific use this Universal Tao Scripture had. He only told him that the Universal Tao Scripture was highly unique and could be quite helpful in the future. Jian Wushuang was also bemused about this scripture. When he was in the Ancient God Clan and treated like a clansman of the Ancient God Clan, he had suspected that the Universal Tao Scripture had changed the aura of his soul. But during the meeting with Xianxia later, this speculation was denied. However, now, could it be that what the Universal Tao Scripture has changed is not the aura of my soul but my consciousness? Jian Wushuang mumbled to himself. Of course, this was just a guess. He could not be certain. Taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang opened his mouth and said, Witch King, my senior, I did learn a very special secret skill. But I have no idea what effect that secret skill has. All I know is that it is a very unusual secret skill. Well, that must be it. The Witch King nodded with assurance. You, as a Divine Realm Expert, have not lived in this world for very long time, right? Even if you've been through a great amount of training and survived great hardships, your consciousness would not be that strong. So, you surely have practiced some secret skill to enhance your consciousness. And this kind of secret skills that help one improve his consciousness is rather rare throughout the world. So the one you practice is naturally out of the ordinary. Is it? Jian Wushuang nodded. To verify this, he would have to send a message to his master after he got out of the stellar fog sea. Well, no matter what, you've refined the essence blood of my master. From now on, you are the successor of my master. The Witch King announced in a booming voice, as though these words were beyond question. Then, he cast his eyes on Jian Wushuang once again. Blood Mountain, give 1 drop of your ancient god essence blood. The Witch King requested. My ancient god essence blood. Jian Wushuang nodded. Each ancient god had his own essence blood, and so did Jian Wushuang. Although he did not know what the Witch King would do with his essence blood, he extracted a single drop and handed it over to the Witch King without hesitation. Chapter 898, Plenilune Centipede. Once he obtained the ancient god essence blood of Jian Wushuang, the Witch King shot a curious look at Jian Wushuang with his enormous eyes. Then, myriads of mysterious cracks started to appear on the Witch King's gigantic body. Each of those cracks was unfathomable to Jian Wushuang. The mysterious cracks covered the Witch King's body. Then, the Witch King opened his mouth and swallowed down the drop of Jian Wushuang's ancient god essence blood. Kid, brace yourself. The Witch King shouted. As these words faded, his large body with a huge hideous head on the top dashed towards Jian Wushuang. Without giving Jian Wushuang any time to react, it crashed into Jian Wushuang. However, to Jian Wushuang's shock, when the Witch King's body collided with his, he did not feel any impact. Instead, the Witch King's body actually entered into his. This. Jian Wushuang felt his brain was jammed. He stared at the scene, totally at a loss. There was nothing he could do but watch the Witch King's huge body pour into his. Soon, the Witch King's island-sized body had completely vanished out of sight. At the same time, a mysterious scarlet crack, one that looked quite complex, emerged on Jian Wushuang's right arm. Blood Mountain. A vigorous voice sounded from Jian Wushuang's insides. Senior Witch King, what are you doing? Jian Wushuang was utterly astonished. From this day on, you're my new master. There's no need to call me senior any longer, just Witch King. The Witch King said, his tone appeared to be friendlier. New master. What's going on? Jian Wushuang still did not fully understand what was happening. As I told you before, I am Plenilune Centipede. Plenilune is the name of my population. The Witch King began to explain the situation. The clan I belong to is called the Plenilune clan. Human cultivators also address the Plenilune as Plenilune Worm Beast. The Plenilune is born with an ancient god and relies on the ancient god's blood to survive and grow. You can perceive the Plenilune as a kind of parasitic beast. Anyway, the Plenilune clan is destined to serve the ancient god clan since they were born. For the ancient god clan, the Plenilune clan is their close ally. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was taken aback. It had occurred to him that when he was staying in the ancient god clan, he saw many ancient gods carrying worm beasts just like the Witch King, but they were much smaller. Those ancient gods all treated the worm beasts as their brothers. Since I was born, I've been around my master King Luozhen and lived on his blood. As master's strength kept going up, I grew stronger and stronger. When master became the top 8-star ancient god, I also became the Plenilune Centipede in the prime of my life. But later, master met his downfall. I escaped with his essence blood of inheritance and tried to find a suitable successor for him. However, given that I lost the ancient god that I relied on, I could not survive for long, so I came to the Stellar Fog Sea. The Stellar Fog Sea was created by the founder of the lineage of stars. With the magic means he left here, I managed to scrape a living. But I can only exist in the form of an island and cannot move. The slightest of moves will shorten my lifespan. I have remained here and waited for a long time. Finally, you, a man with the bloodline of the ancient god clan, came to me, but you're merely a divine realm expert. Merely a divine realm expert. I never thought you could refine Master's essence blood. Master's essence blood was in my stomach. To give you an opportunity to refine it, I would have to make a significant move, which would dent my lifespan. Thus, I attempted to persuade you to give up. But to my surprise, your consciousness is so powerful that you actually made it. Speaking of this, the Witch King also sounded a bit thrilled. Now, you've refined Master's essence blood of inheritance, so you're the successor of my master. And as I have accomplished all tasks left to me by my master, the next thing I have to do is find a new ancient god to rely on and survive with his blood. You, the successor of my master, are naturally the perfect candidate. Therefore, from now on, you're my new master. I'll live in your body, feed on your ancient god blood. That explains it. Hearing the Witch King out, Jian Wushuang nodded and now had a general idea of the whole event. The Plenilune is a kind of parasitic beast that only feeds on the blood of an ancient god. Over the past years, the Witch King failed to find any ancient god to rely on, so he could only turn into an island and has since struggled to survive with the help of the unique features of this stellar fog sea. Now that he had become the successor of that King Luozhen, the Witch King finally completed his mission. Hence, the Witch King picked him as his new master and expected to live on his blood. Realizing all the things that had occurred, Jian Wushuang gave an unbidden wry smile. When the Witch King picked him as his new master, the Witch King did not ask for his approval. At the thought of this large worm beast living in his body from now on, Jian Wushuang could not help but feel chills climbing up his spine. Then, Jian Wushuang asked the Witch King a few more questions, such as how to communicate with him. After learning everything he should know, Jian Wushuang reluctantly accepted that he had become the Witch King's master. At this point, Lord Spirit Sound, who had stood in the void nearby and watched all this quietly the whole time, approached him. Blood Mountain, congratulations. Lord Spirit Sound stared at Jian Wushuang. She had witnessed everything that had taken place. The reason that I took you here was that I hoped you could have a try since you carry the bloodline of the ancient god clan. But who knew that you really obtained the supreme treasure that the king left behind? How blessed you are, tut, tut. Jian Wushuang smiled. Although being recognized as the new master of the Witch King made Jian Wushuang a little overwhelmed, he had also successfully gained the essence blood of inheritance that 8-star imperial god left behind, which was indeed a great fortune. Well, I have already given you 3 opportunities. Now, you may leave the stellar fog sea. Lord Spirit Sound said. At this, Jian Wushuang's brows furrowed slightly and he asked, Lord Spirit Sound, I have some friends on this star island. I wonder if I can. But before Jian Wushuang could finish his words, Lord Spirit Sound cut him off. I know what you're going to say. I'm sorry. The rule is the rule. It was established by the founder of the lineage of stars. Even I have no right to change it. Thus, if anyone on the Star Island wants to leave, he has to pass the 3 tests in the Black Tower and become a disciple of the lineage of stars. If he can't meet this requirement, he will be trapped on this Star Island forever. Lord Spirit Sound's voice sounded quite callous. Chapter 899, Before Departing. When he heard Lord Spirit Sound, Jian Wushuang couldn't stop his expression from changing. After all, he did have a few friends on Star Island. Like Ling Long, who had entered the stellar fog sea with him and had even been through some life-and-death situations with him. Then, there were also Qian Yu and Zidong. He had a good relationship with Qian Yu, while Zidong had sparred with him many times and even helped him out over the years. If possible, he wanted to bring these 3 out with him when he left the island. But, of course, the rules of Star Island were not that easy to break. If you want to bring them with you, there is a way. However, it will be quite difficult for you, Lord Spirit Sound suddenly said and smiled. Are you referring to the 4th Black Tower? Jian Wushuang asked. There were actually 4 Black Towers on Star Island. The first 3 Black Towers were there to test Divine Realm experts, Eternal Realm experts, and Dao Masters, but the 4th Tower had always been a mystery. However, there was a rumor on Star Island that whoever conquered the 4th Tower would be able to control the stellar fog sea. Regarding the rumor on Star Island about the 4th Black Tower, it is not exactly wrong. That tower is about the final test on Star Island, replied Lord Spirit Sound, before continuing. I mentioned to you before that passing the first 3 towers means you can become an ordinary disciple of Star Bloodline, but that only means to be an ordinary disciple. However, the 4th Black Tower. The person who founded the Star Bloodline set the rules that anyone who can pass the test in the 4th Tower can become a true disciple of Star Palace and will be able to enter it. Meanwhile, that person will also gain control of the entire stellar fog sea, which also means he will gain control of Star Island. If you successfully pass the 4th Black Tower and become a true disciple of Star Palace, whether or not the people on Star Island can stay or go will be completely up to you. I see. Jian Wushuang nodded and then asked, what realm was the 4th Tower created to test? Well, it definitely has a very high requirement, much higher than your current level, so you still have a long way to go before your cultivation reaches that point. In the future, once your strength has improved enough, Gu King will let you know, Lord Spirit Sound said with a laugh. I still have a long way to go. Jian Wushuang sighed helplessly. After all, he was still quite young. He had cultivated for less than 1,000 years, so it was already incredible for him to have reached his current level. As for the strength required to defeat the 4th Tower, he was not there yet, but that didn't mean he wouldn't be strong enough in the future. Oh, there is one other thing. Jian Wushuang looked at Lord Spirit Sound and continued, when I entered the stellar fog sea 200 years ago, there were 4 of us. Shui Jin died and Ling Long entered Star Island with me, but I never did find out what happened to Ju Zui. Do you, Lord Spirit Sounds, possibly know his whereabouts? The other person who came with you. Lord Spirit Sound frowned and shook his head. I am in charge of Star Island, but I have no control over what happens in the stellar fog sea, so I don't know where Ju Zui is now, the person who came with you. However, since it's been over 200 years now and he has not entered Star Island, it's highly likely that he is already dead.
He is dead?
Jian Wushuang frowned while sighing to himself. In the beginning, he had entered the stellar fog sea along with Ju Zui, Ling Long, and Shui Jin, but only he and Ling Long had survived. Moreover, Ling Long was not strong enough to pass the test of the Black Tower, so it would be a very long time before she was able to leave. She could even be trapped here for the rest of her life. Jian Wushuang was the only one with enough talent and luck to be able to leave. Among the four, he was the luckiest. Do you have any other questions? Lord Spirit Sound asked, with his hands behind his back and a patient expression on his face.
There is nothing else.
But, before I leave, I want to go back to Star Island and tie up a few loose ends. Is that okay?
Jian Wushuang asked.
That is fine. Lord Spirit Sound nodded slightly. However, whether you are on Star Island and in the stellar fog sea or not, you cannot reveal any information regarding the Star Bloodline or Star Island to anyone, no matter who they are.
I will place a strong restriction on your body.
If you tell anyone, the restriction will activate. Unless someone stronger than me steps in, you will definitely die. After that, Lord Spirit Sound flicked his wrist and Jian Wushuang was instantly surrounded by a red light. When facing Lord Spirit Sound, Jian Wushuang was completely unable to fight back, so he could only accept it as the red light entered his body. A restriction. He could not help but smile bitterly. Before entering the stellar fog sea, there had already been a restriction placed on him by Emperor Leng. Now, while leaving the stellar fog sea, another restriction was being placed on him. Okay, you can go. Lord Spirit Sound made a simple motion. Then, in front of Jian Wushuang, a wormhole appeared out of thin air. Jian Wushuang stepped into the wormhole and immediately returned to Star Island. Back on Star Island, Jian Wushuang had passed the third Black Tower test in front of everyone. When news of this spread, everyone on Star Island was completely shocked. Everyone on the island was very excited. After all, the stellar fog sea had been around for a long time, and only one person had ever left alive to date. The odds of leaving here were just too low. Because the odds were so low, the people on Star Island didn't see any hope for the future. Maybe they were already very desperate. But, now that Jian Wushuang was preparing to leave, the hope that was buried deep in their hearts had been rekindled. If Blood Mountain can pass through the third tower, why can't I? Almost everyone had this train of thought. In front of the Black Tower, stood a crowd of people who were waiting for Jian Wushuang to reappear. But, even after such a long time, he still had not come out. Everyone understood that he had probably left with Lord Spirit Sound and possibly even exited the stellar fog sea already, so these people could only slowly disperse. Inside Jian Wushuang's courtyard on Star Island, everyone who had an excellent relationship with Jian Wushuang was gathered here. Ling Long, Zidong, and Qian Yu were all gathered here, with Jian Wushuang sitting in the middle. Blood Mountain, congratulations. Zidong stared at him with a burning look in his eyes that was very deep, yet possessed a hint of envy. Before the arrival of Jian Wushuang, he had been the person who was the closest to passing the third test. No one expected Jian Wushuang, who had only arrived recently, would only need 200 years to completely surpass him. Not only that, he even took the lead and passed the third tower. Chapter 900, The Kongming Dao Master. By the way, since you have passed the third level of the Black Tower, you can now leave the stellar fog sea, right? Zidong looked at Jian Wushuang. Yes, that's true. But I am the only one who can leave. Jian Wushuang said with a faint nod, I asked Lord Spirit Sound if I can take you guys with me, but the answer was no. Zidong, Qian Yu, and Ling Long looked at each other without speaking. They were not surprised to hear this result. I really envy you. Qian Yu praised. You are the most talented among us. After you is Zidong. He has passed the second level and may have a chance to leave in the future. But as for me and Ling Long, maybe we will be stuck here forever. On hearing this, Ling Long expressed a bitter smile. No, you won't be kept here forever. I've asked Lord Spirit Sound, and he told me that if someone is able to pass the task of the fourth Black Tower, he will be the master of the Stellar Fog Sea. Then, you will have the chance to leave, said Jian Wushuang seriously. I will do everything I can to improve my strength once I leave the Stellar Fog Sea. I promise I will come back if it's possible, and then I will pass the task of the fourth Black Tower to get you out.
Aha! I'm so happy to hear that. Chen Yu grinned.
Blood Mountain, we will depend on you now,
Zidong said with a smile.
I trust you. Ling Long took a solemn look at Jian Wushuang. Well, I'm about to leave the Star Island soon. But first, we should get to have drink together.
Jian Wushuang laughed and said.
Zidong and the other three also made their own toasts. Jian Wushuang stood up after just one shot. Zidong, you know that Chen Yu and Ling Long are not so strong. You should take care of them in the Star Island from now on.
You can count on me. Zidong nodded.
My three friends, take care. Jian Wushuang left after saying these words. But of course Jian Wushuang didn't leave immediately. Instead he made his way to a castle made of black stone on the edge of the island. The master of this castle is one of the 5 Dao masters of the Star Island, Dao Master Kong Ming. Jian Wushuang stood in front of the Blackstone Castle. He then bowed slightly to the castle and then his loud voice rang out. Dao Master Kong Ming, Blood Mountain is here to pay you a visit.
Enter,
said a voice from inside the castle. Jian Wushuang rushed into the castle and arrived at the garden. He then saw a middle-aged man with moustache in a cyan long gown, carefully tending the flowers. The middle-aged man stopped what he was doing when Jian Wushuang entered. He turned his head slowly to look at Jian Wushuang. Blood Mountain, you have passed the 3rd level of the Black Tower and you are able to leave Star Island. So tell me, what is your purpose here? Dao Master Kong Ming said in a calm voice. An elegant aura spread out from him as he spoke. I come here to ask you a favor.
Jian Wushuang said.
Yes, asked the Dao Master Kong Ming. To be honest with you, I came to this Stellar Fog Sea for only one reason, and that is the Yin-Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit. Jian Wushuang openly expressed his intentions. The eyes of the Dao Master Kong Ming narrowed when he heard Yin-Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit, his gaze fixed on Jian Wushuang. Dao Master Kong Ming, I'm aware that you have a Yin-Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit in possession. 50,000 years ago, you were being hunted by someone and had to flee into Stellar Fog Sea when you saw no other option. And now with the Yin-Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit still in your possession, I was hoping that you could do me a favor, and I, Blood Mountain, will always remember that you did me this favor.
Jian Wushuang said in a serious tone. Remember this favor.
Dao Master Kong Ming uttered a snorting laugh. Blood Mountain, how dare you treat me like a fool? I'm now trapped in the Star Island. What's the use of your favor when I hardly have any chance of leaving? Moreover, the Yin-Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit is of great value and is quite meaningful to me. If it weren't for the fruit, I wouldn't have been hunted and never would have fled to the Stellar Fog Sea. 50,000 years ago, I chose to come to the Stellar Fog Sea rather than hand over the Yin-Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit. And now, you want to trade this Yin-Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit with your worthless favor? How naive of you. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes after hearing this. He had no idea that the Dao Master Kong Ming had been hunted because of a Yin-Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit. Dao Master Kong Ming, that Yin-Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit is useless to you now since you are trapped in the Star Island. But to me, it is of huge value. Besides, I believe that my favor might be of use to you. Lord Spirit Sound told me that if anyone can pass the task of the 4th Black Tower, then he can take control of the Stellar Fog Sea, which means he can control the lives of everyone within. And this 4th Black Tower, as long as I have the ability, I will do my best to pass. The 4th Black Tower, you say? Dao Master Kong Ming glanced at Jian Wushuang with surprise, and then snarled, not even the Dao Masters have the ability to do so. What makes you think you can pass such a challenge? I have no assurance of success. Jian Wushuang said truthfully, the 4th Black Tower is indeed currently beyond my ability, and it is true I have no faith passing. Nevertheless, I still have the potential for success. It may seem quite unlikely, but there is hope. The Yin-Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit cannot help you in any way right now, so why not exchange it for the only chance of leaving the Star Island Star Island? I believe that you, Tao Master Kong Ming, will make the right choice. Jian Wushuang said with sincerity. He had no choice, for the fruit was in the hands of the Tao Master Kong Ming. And though Kong Ming is a Tao Master expert, he could not pass the first level of the Black Tower. However, he had spent 50,000 years in the Star Island, and had cultivated a very powerful secret skill, not to mention his own ability. It is true his strength was way above that of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang needed to remain polite. He must try to convince the Tao Master Kong Ming to give him Yin-Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit willingly. Tao Master Kong Ming narrowed his eyes a little when Jian Wushuang finished his speech, and he succumbed to deep thought. It didn't take long for Tao Master Kong Ming to make up his mind. He looked up at Jian Wushuang again, with a smile on his face. You do have amazing talents. In the long history of Star Island, only 2 people have managed to leave. You are one of the 2 people. The other one is Star King from 4 million years ago. Being able to leave the stellar fog sea alive, you two are true exceptional genius. And you may even be stronger than Star King in terms of talent.